Hi everybody, welcome to the Tournament Center. I'm Brian David Marshall here at Pro Tour Avacyn Restored, right in the middle of day 2. I'm here with Canadian Magic player, ManaDeprived.com, Alexander Hayne, and we're going to talk about a blue-white control deck and block constructed that you're playing. We'll talk a little bit about how the deck originated when we're done, but first let's take a look at the deck. Everyone loves a blue-white control deck, so let's see what's going on with the deck that you're playing this weekend. Starting up, we see Thought Scour and Think Twice. Card drawing is always a staple in a control deck, so yeah. Tell us about these cards.
Well, these are both the best instant speed card draw spells in the format. Thought Scour sometimes even draws you an extra card because being able to mill cards is very valuable.
Right, they work together, right? Sometimes
right.
you Thought Scour or Think Twice.
Exactly.
And you're playing 4 of each of these
yes.
in your deck. Okay, all right. So that seems pretty straightforward. Seems like a pretty basic thing. Let's move on to the next slide. Take a look. All right. Well, here's a couple cards. Tamiyo the Moon Sage obviously is an awesome card, and combined with Thought Scour is
yes.
kind of like a fireball when you get to ultimate her, right?
Right. It's actually a win condition. You can use the Thought Scour on yourself to draw 3, and then when you're set up, you can use it on your opponent right. to deck them out.
So in case you're not understanding what's happening, if you get to ultimate this, right over here, -8, you get an emblem with you have no maximum hand size, and whenever a card is put into your graveyard from anywhere, you may return it to your hand. So you Thought Scour yourself, and the 2 cards that you would mill, you go to your hand. The Thought Scour itself comes to your hand. That's 3 cards.
Yeah, plus the card
and plus
you draw.
the card you draw. It's insane.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Tamiyo has one of those. The plus ability on Tamiyo really.
Yeah.
It makes it easier for you to get to the ultimate. Have you actually executed that this weekend? Have you?
I have not. I once have used Tamiyo Ultimate, but not with Thought Scour. I used it with Feeling of Dread actually to just tap down all my opponent's creatures. Yeah.
Now, Feeling of Dread is a card that I don't think I was expecting to see.
No, nobody
in the
was.
Constructed portion. Why Feeling of Dread?
Well, it's what the deck needs. It buys you time. Like this whole deck is all about buying yourself time, and it also works well with the Thought Scours because you can mill yourself.
Sure. So this is another card that when you Thought Scour yourself, if this ends up in your graveyard, it's like an extra card.
Right. And blue and white don't really have many cheap early ways to interact with your opponent. So it's a way to stop like the fast starts like Champion of the Parish and to gather the townsfolk or something.
Right, and this is no silver bullet card. You're playing 4.
Yeah, 4 copies.
4 copies of Feeling of Dread, 4 copies of Tamiyo the Moon Sage, Dissipate, which is a card we would expect to see in a blue-white control deck.
1.
You're playing 1.
Well, there's story behind that, but really this deck would not work without Feeling of Dread. That was the key card that I just came up with late at night, and I was looking through the spoiler and Feeling of Dread, and it was exactly what this deck needed. The reason there's 1 Dissipate is just so when you get the Tamiyo emblem, you can counter all of your opponent's spells once you draw your deck, so you set up.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Let's move on to the next slide and see. All right, so this is, again, pretty basic. 4 Evolving Wilds.
4 Evolving Wilds and all basics, yeah.
All basics. You have no non-basic lands.
No, there's no allied colored lands in the format.
No Cavernous Souls. No nothing.
No, nothing. Just 13 islands, 10 plains, 4 Evolving Wilds.
That's 27 lands.
27 lands.
That's the kind of mana base you like to see.
You always want to have lands.
You want to play a land every single turn of the game, right?
Yes.
Okay, so all right, so we've seen a little bit of the control elements. We've seen a little bit of the card drawing elements. We've seen the lands. What are you doing with all this? Let's take a look at the next slide.
Time for the fun part.
This is what makes the deck special. Oh, I mean, this seems like Terminus seems like a card you would expect in a blue-white control deck.
6 mana Wrath of Gods have typically been block playable.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is even kind of better
yes.
than a Wrath of God. We've seen people playing Angel of Glory's Rise this weekend, which gets all their humans back. So if you kill their humans, then they play the Angel.
And there's Morbid, and there's Unburial Rites, and Undying. It really interacts well against all the mechanics in the block.
Awesome. Okay, so we got a Terminus. 4 copies?
Yes.
All right.
4 copies.
All right, let's look at the next slide. Right. You understand this is block constructed, right?
Yes.
You understand this is not a legacy GP or anything like that.
Well, I wasn't quite sure, but
what? How are you playing Temporal Mastery?
That card it's very good, and it's really one of the hardest cards in the deck to play properly. But
how hard could it be to play? I take an extra turn.
Well, it's all about when you take your extra turn. Sometimes when you draw it off the miracle, you don't even want to cast it.
That's fascinating. Yeah. So give me an example. You know, I draw my card, I do my little operations to make sure I keep the cards separate, and it's a Temporal Mastery. When am I not going to reveal that Temporal Mastery?
Usually in about the mid game is generally when you're not going to reveal it. When
so
you're getting
turn 3, turn 4?
Then turn 3, turn 4, you usually will cast it because it'll, for instance, let you, if you have a Terminus in your hand, it'll let you get that extra land drop to be able to play the Terminus.
So you might cantrip it, essentially, right? You say, oh, I'll take an extra turn. Explore, exactly, exactly.
But it's better than Explore because there's other parts of the turn, like you can use Tamiyo again and you get another attack phase as well.
Okay, which I saw, in fact, I saw you playing a match where your opponent had a Tamiyo.
Yes.
You had some token creatures in play. We'll get to those in a moment. And one of your tokens was locked down by the Tamiyo.
Right.
You untapped, paid 7.
Yeah.
Just 7 mana. I'm going to take an extra turn.
Right.
Attacked with 1 token, untapped, and then attacked with both tokens, killed the Tamiyo, played your own Tamiyo.
Yeah.
That was a really exciting turn. And then how did that game end, actually?
Well, it ended with me attacking him for lethal, but first I miracled one at the end of his turn with Thought Scour and took another turn.
So one of the tricky things with this deck is being able to play these cantrip spells that let you draw a card, the Think Twice, Flashing Back, Think Twice, or Thought Scour.
Right.
If you do it on your opponent's turn and the card you draw...
It's a miracle, and you can miracle it right then. And
so now we've seen 8 miracles in your deck. How many miracles could you possibly cram into a deck? All right, let's see the next slide. So we mentioned the tokens you were using to kill people. Entreat the Angels. Again, these are all 4x4?
Four copies. Everything except for Dissipate and the lands is a 4 of.
Okay, so tell me about this card.
This card is absurd. It just, even when you hard cast it, it was Noah Long, another Canadian, who first sent us a list that was playing Entreat the Angels because we weren't sure how good the miracle cards were. It was just before the pre-release.
Okay.
And we thought, whoa, this is really, he explained it, even for 7 mana, it's like a Broodmate Dragon, sort of. You make 2 4/4s.
So it's, right, 7
if you're
mana.
hard casting it.
Sure.
But when you miracle it, it's absolutely insane. I mean, sometimes, on turn 4 or turn 5, you draw for your turn, and just 2 angels, and you have, oops, I win moments.
Right. Okay.
Like one match, I miracled a Temporal Mastery, played my 9th land, played another Temporal Mastery, and then drew Entreat the Angels, miracled it for a ton, and then took my extra turn and killed my opponent.
That is awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, so that's got to be the absolute limit as far as how many miracles we could put into this deck, right?
No, it's not.
All right, give me the next slide. All right. I definitely saw Terminus as a playable card in this format.
Yes.
I definitely saw Temporal Mastery as possibly a playable card, although I was pretty skeptical about it. Entreat the Angels, Decree of Justice has been a fine card in the past. Devastation Tide? How does this card work for you? You have 4 of them.
Right, 4 of them.
I am flabbergasted.
Well, the format has a lot of token creatures, so it actually just kills the token creatures, and it bounces all the planeswalkers. It's another sort of, like Terminus, it's sort of a wrath that you can hit off of your cantrips on the end of your opponent's turn.
Okay.
And it gives you basically redundancy for the Terminuses in a way, but in some matchups it's a lot better, just being able to bounce planeswalkers and so on. And you can often set up turns where you Tamiyo one of their permanents, then like Devastation Tide, then lock down another land with Tamiyo after replaying it, or you draw cards with Tamiyo and then reset it again. There's a lot of tricks you can do, and after sideboard there's Snapcaster Mages, which you can give it flashback, cast it, return the Snapcaster Mage as well as everything else. And
oh wow, yeah. That's pretty exciting.
It's very good. It's probably the card that you'd think would be the worst maybe in the deck, but it's one of the better ones.
So 16 miracles.
16.
The deck is actually called Hallelujah.
Yeah, Hallelujah.
It's a miracle. So how do you, how do you just control you have no deck manipulation in terms of knowing what's on top of your deck.
Exactly, you have none.
So how do you make this deck work?
Well, it's all about the numbers. The fact that you have 16 miracle cards means that you basically have 26.66% chance of each draw to hit a miracle. And so when you're drawing on your turn and then on your opponent's turn usually, you have very high chances of hitting one of those.
Okay.
And you have cards like Feeling of Dread to buy yourself time so that you can get to the late game where you can hard cast all these spells, which are extremely powerful.
And again, the cards, I guess, start to feed into each other.
Right.
Because you can just pay 5 mana, return all the permanents to reset the game back to a neutral state, just lands, and then you get another turn to draw a card.
Right.
Or you can Temporal Mastery and you get another
turn to draw a card, yeah. And they also buy you time, and basically whenever you miracle them, it's kind of like you just drew a Black Lotus for your turn.
So we alluded at the beginning of this segment to the origins of this deck. You worked on this deck with, you said that someone sent you...
Noah Long sent
you the list. Yeah. And then you worked on this with David Kaplan?
Yeah, David Kaplan.
And where did you guys work on this deck?
Well, we're both qualified for this through level 3 Pro Invite, and we definitely wanted to go. And we're looking at flight prices, and he found that it was actually almost cheaper to take a cruise, a 14-day cruise across the Atlantic to Barcelona.
Certainly not factoring in opportunity cost.
No, but I mean, free food and excellent lodging, and we were hoping to get other Canadians on board so we'd all have a big group there and we just test on the ship. But other people only qualified later, and the price went up, so it didn't happen. It was just the two of us.
So you took a 14-day transatlantic cruise/brew session.
Oh, yes. And we wouldn't just brew block. We also would play cube, and we played some vintage and stuff too. All sorts of different games. And
that is fantastic. Now,
it's so much fun.
Alexander, you've worked with David Kaplan before.
Yes.
The mono red deck that he played at Worlds was a deck that you originated.
Yeah, that I gave him that deck. I was too scared to play it myself, though. I played Illusions, and I definitely regret that.
Interesting. So you got off to a little bit of a rough start this tournament.
Yeah.
How difficult is this deck to play, and how much is that factored into your early results?
It's really, really difficult. I would not suggest just picking up this deck just to play in a big, important tournament because it's really hard, despite what you might think, oh, miracle. You do get some free wins, but there's the middle ground ones you have to really work for, and you have to figure out what cards you can potentially draw. Do you want to draw a card on your turn or your opponent's turn? And
explain to me, you described a situation where you lost a game because of a decision you made early on. Tell me about that decision, because it really shows you the tightrope, the tight wire act that this deck can be when you're playing it.
Well, for instance, my opponent had about 5 creatures in play, one of which was Avacyn's Pilgrim, and the other ones were 2 power. And he played another Avacyn's Pilgrim, and I should have dissipated it, because then I could have drawn...
But who dissipates the Avacyn's Pilgrim,
Exactly,
right?
Especially when it's the 6th creature on the board. But it would have allowed me to draw Entreat, and be able to Entreat for enough Angels to block everything except for his other Pilgrim, and go to 1 life on it because I was at 2.
So I think what's important to note there is not that you know you're going to draw Entreat, but you have to know that you could draw Entreat. And that was one of your answers. And you could also draw Devastation Tide, you could also draw Terminus, but you have to be thinking about that card as well.
Yeah. You have to think about every potential draw you can have, and you have to figure out when to draw cards to hit that card, and it's very hard.
And the temptation to think twice on your own turn is something you have to resist sometimes.
Oh yeah, you usually don't want to play cantrips on your turn, unless there's werewolves that you want to stop from flipping. You want to save them for your opponent's turn, and you want to save them when you have enough mana to cast certain miracle cards.
Okay.
Like you usually cast them when you have 2 mana open, because that everything other than Entreat you can potentially cast.
Okay. So after getting off to a 1-3 start, you've rattled off 8 straight wins.
8 straight wins.
You're 9-3. Yeah. You've got a couple big matches left to play today.
Yes.
You're looking for basically looking to win the Canadian National Championship.
Right.
So if you do well enough here, and what kind of finish do you need in order to lock up gold for next year? Because we definitely want to see a lot more of you on the Pro Tour.
I need a top 75 to get gold.
Okay.
And if I get top 25, then I'm the Canadian champion.
Awesome. Okay, so Boat Brew 2.0, the Miracle, the SS Miracle.
Hallelujah.
With Alexander Hayne, this is Brian David Marshall signing off from the Tournament Center.